You're not wrong if you want emotional safety in a relationship. You're not wrong if you want a certain meeting or you want certain people in your life. You are not wrong if you want emotional safety. So what's so important about that, and how does that link in with 12-step meetings? 12-step meetings show, you know why not every 12-step meeting is not every 12-step meeting is healthy. Every meeting offers something different. But what happens when I go into a meeting, right? Why can I go there and it's okay? Why can I go there and talk about my feelings, my struggles, my pain, my vulnerabilities, and then leave feeling better than when I brought myself there? When I go in, it's like I know what time the meeting's at, right? Boom, consistency. The other thing is I kind of have an idea of like who's going to be at that meeting. There's usually like a familiar crowd, familiar faces, right? Usually the same people go to the same meetings. I pick the meeting that's best for me. Now I go in there and the meeting quietens down, right? The leader starts chairing the meeting and everybody stops and bees quiet. Now, why is everyone being quiet? Because everybody's starting to listen. Because people are taking a turn. Because that's how relationships work, is back and forth and taking turns, not overpowering and interrupting each other. Like, you don't go into a meeting and then it's just a gong show the whole time and people are talking the whole time, right? No one's going to share about anything. So the structure is being built. So that trust is starting to be established. That foundation is being made when the meeting starts. You already know the meeting time. The meeting location is the same. All that stuff's not changing on you all the time. You go in, it's the same structured format for the meeting. It's the same format. So it's going to talk about, and it's the same like, say you're going to CODA, NA, you're going to MA, you're going to SA, whatever, right? Like you're going to that meeting for that thing and you know what you're getting. You know, everything that is going to be at that meeting, you know what you're getting. You have the autonomy of the meeting. You have the anonymity of the meeting, which means no one's going to talk about your stuff or know that you're there. So you have that protection. And then, so now the meeting has started and everyone's being quiet. Now, some meetings take longer for people to be quiet than others, and that's okay. But you know, it does get quiet. Like people do stop, and that helps build that trust and safety in the room, right? So now more time is starting to go by. Right? And so the trust is being built because the structure and the format's the same. They read the same exact, thing every meeting, like the announcements, the crosstalk rules. It's the same every single meeting. Like they don't change that stuff. The only thing they change is like you do the daily meditations or reflections, and then you do like a different reading, but it's like the same reading from the same book, and it's the same daily reflection from the same book. Like there are similarities, but there's the same things that are happening. And this is all helping to build that trust. And as you sit there in that chair, you start to sink in. You start to deepen with yourself. When I listen first, right, that opens me up for growth and change and resonating with people. If I just went and walked into a room and just talked the whole time, I wouldn't learn a thing. But what happens is I go in a room, like, sure, there's pre-fellowship, but when I go in that room and the meeting actually starts, I'm actually listening first with everybody. And that does something. So now the trust is being built. And when you have the trust, you have the safety because you have the consistency. And then you can be intimate. You can open up. You can be vulnerable, right? But, I used to go and be open up and vulnerable to all the wrong people and to people that weren't very safe. It wasn't until I started to value safety with myself and that it was important to me, started leaving conversations that weren't healthy or got too angry. Like when I really started to learn about safety for myself, I started to value safety, and I wanted safety because I learned I wanted intimacy. Right? And so a 12-step meeting, I find, is if you can think about a relationship like that it needs those building blocks. It needs those things to happen in a priority, in a sequence, consistency with time to help open up a place for intimacy. And then really healthy relationships have that trust, that emotional safety, so you can have that intimacy. And then when you have all that, you have all the growth and all the gifts and all the things that go with it. So I find like this is just like a really good example of just like why crosstalk's important, why emotional safety is important in relationships, all kinds of relationships, like your work ones, your friend ones, your spouse, right? And, when you have that safety, you get to have the connection, right? And so when I used to not have very good relationships in my life, and then wonder why I was getting hurt all the time and wondering why things didn't work out all the time. And it's because I didn't have an understanding of just like how important that trust and that safety was for me to have so that I could get those things that I wanted. And so I found out like that was a really personal internal need of mine. And when I started to really listen and respect that, I started to see that more and gravitate more towards that, and like certain meetings, and certain relationships, not going to open up so deeply in certain places, right? But that's why I find like, if you look at how a meeting is set up, what makes that meeting so great for you to go there and be able to do that kind of inside work is because you have the trust and the safety and the same thing and the consistency, right? Like, wouldn't it be weird if I was like, oh, I want to go to this CODA meeting, but the location keeps changing, or I really need to share something that happened to me today and really get vulnerable and honest, but I can't because, it's a gong show in here, or it's just not that type of meeting. That's not the place for me to go. So there's two things that happen. Either find a safer meeting or you don't open up in those spaces or move on. But it also shines a light on the fact that it's really important to have the trust and safety, and it's necessary for those healthy relationships. Just because you give intimacy in an unsafe place for yourself or with someone that's not trustworthy doesn't make it healthy, right? Like, I used to do that and then wonder why it was always, still like I'd put the intimacy first before the trust and the emotional safety. I'd put the intimacy first and then wonder why it wasn't fruitful. Why I didn't feel good after, why I was always kind of crumbly and I was always putting pieces back together. But when I got things in order, when I got the priorities set with certain and the right people and the right meetings, then I got the thing I wanted all the time, the intimacy, the closeness, the connection, the growth. But I had to do it in that order. It didn't work. I did all the other orders and it didn't work that way. So I find, it was just like major light bulb moment. It just really, I just have such a deep appreciation for that. And, it's out there, it can be found, and we have to keep our meetings, we have to keep our meetings a safe place, and it's possible to really have those healthy and loving relationships. Like, I went my whole life searching for that because I just didn't know until I really started to value that for myself and then and do that for myself. And then I found the people, the places I could do that with, like have those conversations with and be able to open up with. And I think that my soul needs that. Like I really needed that for my recovery. So it's good to keep our meetings a safe place. So thanks for being here. Okay, bye.